Education 1030 students. I hope that you guys had a great week last week. I don't know when you're watching this. I'm recording this on Thursday, April the 20th. So this week is going to be our last chapter that we're going to cover in our very last unit in this class. So this week is the last week of classes. If you were to look on inside your syllabus, there is a curriculum timeline that I gave you. So I would really like you to pay close attention to the dates, because this week starts tomorrow the 21st and it goes through Thursday the 27th. The next week is finals week, and that's when you're going to have to complete your Unit 3 capstone. You also have your last unit exam, so that will be your final. And then you also have to complete course feedback for me, as well as a post-test. So there's a lot going on these last couple of weeks. I will be sending a video out, a separate video, talking about the week of April 28th through May 4th, which is finals week. So I'll be sending a separate video talking about the capstone, exam 3, as well as your course feedback and post-test. So be looking for that. I'll probably send it out. This week sometime. So whenever you're watching this, you should be able to see another video. And I'll also email it to make sure that you see it in 2 different places. Because to finish up this course, you have to do your last unit exam, which will be your final. You will have to complete your capstone, as well as completing the course feedback and the post-test. And I will be discussing all of that in the second video. So be looking for that in an email, and as well, I'll put it on the course homepage. So let's just start first with going over Chapter 2. So if you'll remember, when we first started this course, we did Chapter 1 and went straight to Chapter 12, which was that career portion of the text. We are finishing out with Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 is all about emotional resilience. It's all about determination, your motivation, your resilience, and we're looking at really what makes you tick, like your emotions. So we're also going to be looking at something called growth mindset and how that can actually make you more successful. And I don't know if you have heard of growth mindset, but there is a separate PowerPoint I have in here, as well as a video that really dives a little deeper into growth mindset and how it can really help with your motivation, but also your success. So in Chapter 2, you of course have to read the text. And one of the things I want to point out in Chapter 2 is on page 33, there is a table, and it has statements. And what I want you to do is I want you to kind of gauge your attitude and how you react to certain situations. So on page 33, table 2.1 in your text, there is a place for you to describe how you would react in certain situations. And this just gives you an idea of how your attitude clearly plays a role in your relationships, but also how you move toward your problem solving, how your attitude affects certain aspects of your life, not only in your personal, but looking at education and professional life as well. So I would like you to do that. Another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is motivation. So in this Chapter 2, on page 32, there is a section here talking about motivation and how it's connected to your goals. So we should always be setting goals for ourselves. You should set your academic goals, you should have professional goals, and you should have personal goals. So Chapter 2 really talks about the different types of motivation you have and how that can relate to you achieving your goals. So I really want you to concentrate on that part in the text. The other thing that I mentioned to you was mindset. So on page 35, it really goes and starts talking, well actually 34 and 35 in your text talks about mindset, growth mindset, and how this really plays a factor into your relationships and if you're going to be successful or not. So really, your mindset is your beliefs about things, right? It's about your basic quality traits, such as like your attitude, your intelligence, your talents, what you believe about yourself, what you can accomplish, of who you are. So I have put in here a PowerPoint on growth mindset. So I want you to go through this PowerPoint, and I also have a video as well that goes into growth mindset a little bit further about what it is and how it works and why does it matter. So I want you to look at that. So where you can find these is if you're in chapter 2 and you scroll down, it'll be in your learning resources. Underneath the reading organizer for chapter 2, you're going to see the PowerPoint on growth mindset. Okay, so this is just extra content. There's an interactive quiz inside of it to see what kind of mindset you have, but you have to download the PowerPoint so you can get the links to work. So just make sure you do that, because if you just keep it in this, mode here, and you don't actually download it and put it in presentation mode or slideshow mode, then the links won't work for you. So just make sure you download it and then put it in presentation mode. And the videos you will find is going to be underneath the PowerPoint for growth mindset. So you'll see it's the last link video that says growth mindset introduction train ugly. So this is the video that I just was referring to. The other video is really talking about a big portion of this chapter, which is emotional intelligence. So there's a video about how you can master your emotions. So emotions play a big part of our personality, right? So emotions can sometimes overtake us if we're not careful. So having emotional intelligence is really allowing you to keep your motivation. It's allowing you to think about how you react to certain things. It allows you to have more resilience and grit. So I really want you to pay close attention in here when it's talking about understanding your emotional intelligence, because you have to learn to manage your emotions, right? You can't let your mood, your feelings, your attitudes wreak havoc on your life. Okay, so your emotional intelligence affects your personal life, your relationships, it affects your school, your personal, professional, all those types of relationships. So it's important for you to get a handle on your emotional intelligence. And in page 40 in your text really talks about how you as a college student need to be able to gauge where you fall in the emotional intelligence range. So there's a questionnaire there on page 40 that I'd like you to kind of quiz yourself on and review your responses to see where your emotional intelligence is, and is this something you should work on. So once you figure out where you fall on the scale of emotional intelligence, it goes on page 41 to talk about what role does emotional intelligence play in your everyday life. Like not only academic success, but we're talking about your roles at work, your priority management. Also, emotional intelligence has a lot to do with your anger and your reactions. So just make sure you check out that section. After that, on page 42 and 43 and 44 and 45, it goes even a step further, and it starts talking about how you can identify those competencies inside of emotional intelligences, right? Your emotional skills. And on page 43, it's going to have you rank your capabilities and skills. So this is going to allow you to see how your ability is to cope with pressures of everyday life and demands that are put on you. So what you'll do is on table 2.3 on page 43 in your text, you're going to rank, right? So the scale is going to be A, B, and C. So if you mark A, that means it's a skill or competency you already have or that you possess. B is a skill and competency maybe you need to improve upon that just a little bit. And C is a skill competency that you lack, right? So really take a second to look at the different criteria when we're talking about your skills and competencies. So if you look on page 43, you're going to see that there's different sections. You have intrapersonal, right? So this is talking about your feelings about yourself, like regards to yourself. Interpersonal is going to be your relationships and your social relationships with other people. You have stress management, adaptability, like you're flexible, things change, problem solving, those sorts of things, and then your general mood. So each of these areas make up your emotional skills, right? Your emotional feelings, your emotional competencies. And you have to see kind of what areas you need to work on. So after you rank yourself, you are going to see if you need to improve on any. So obviously any that you put B or C, those are ones you need to really concentrate on improving. On page 44 and 45 in your text, it talks about some strategies that's really going to help you improve on those that you chose and ranked B and C for, and how you can go about doing that. As always, there is a PowerPoint that goes along with the chapter. Okay, so make sure you look at that. It goes along with the text, chapter 2. You also have your reading organizer. Okay, so remember, these are really great study tools, not only for chapter 2 quiz, but also for our unit exam that's coming up during finals week, right? So these are things that we have to think about. So make sure you complete the reading organizer. And then, of course, you have your assignments. So if you'll see here, you have 2 assignments. You'll have a worksheet to do that goes along with our chapter 2, as well as your chapter 2 quiz. So if you look at the dates, it's due Thursday, April 27th. And the quiz, chapter 2 quiz, will close that same day and time as well. So let's look at the assignment that you're going to be completing for this week. So after you've went through all the things that we've talked about, and you've read and you've done your reading organizer, and you looked at the growth mindset, PowerPoint, and video, I really want you to reflect on your attitude, right? Your emotional reactions, how you respond, your relationships with other people. I want you to pretend you're your own therapist. And what I want you to do is use these 3 prompts, and I want you to answer these questions, okay? So I want this in paragraph form, okay? I'm not asking you to write a paper, but I am asking you to write 2 to 3 paragraphs. Now, when I say paragraphs, I don't mean 2 sentences. I mean actual paragraphs. And I want you to respond to these prompts. So the first one, it wants you to think about a situation or kinds of situations which you have reacted with defensiveness, anger, sadness, annoyance, resentment, or humiliation. Okay? And I want you to take a step back and process those reactions or that situation that happened, and think about what you said or how you responded, and how did you respond with your feelings, right? And why did you respond that way? And then you're going to talk with a trusted friend or classmate or someone that is your family about how you reacted and whether you could have chosen to act differently in that situation. And then think about what you can do to control and make good choices the next time you are faced with a potentially volatile situation. Okay, so students, when they do this worksheet and they write these paragraphs, some choose to write about something that's personal, some choose to tell a situation that happened. It's really up to you of how you want to answer this and what situation you want to talk about, right? Because this is something that'll be personal to you. It's a narrative. But I also want you to think, when you're answering the last part and it's asking you, what can you do to take control and make good choices? I want you to think about in your text when it was talking about strategies to improve your emotional intelligence, right? So when you're answering, I want you to look at those strategies and see if any of those would fit about what kind of choices you can make to change next time when you're reacting to certain situations. So this is just something that I want you to think about. But when you're telling me all these 3 things, are your prompts, right? It's to help guide you. But you're going to tell me what happened. You're going to set it up because I've never heard this story. So you're going to tell it by writing what happened and process it, and you're processing your emotions and you're reflecting back on how you reacted. And then, you're going to talk to someone, and maybe someone already knows the situation. So maybe bring it up again. Say, hey, you remember that one time this happened? Or maybe that was with the person that you're talking to. Maybe that happened with them. It could have been something that happened with a family, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. It doesn't matter. I want you to think about that situation. And I want you to think about how you react. It could be something that happened in high school or grade school. It doesn't really matter how far you go back. What I'm wanting you to think about is how you respond, how your emotional intelligence. Go back to your emotional skills and competencies on page 43 and how you measure it out. That's a good place to start. And then think about that situation and write about it. So that'll be your assignment for chapter 2. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to be sending out a separate video because if you'll look down in our content under the table of contents, the last 2 sections we have here is your Unit 3 capstone, and you have your post-test and course feedback, okay? So next week would be finals week for us. So what you're going to be thinking about is you're going to be thinking about starting to do your capstone, because your capstone will be due on May 4th, okay? And your exam 3, I will let you know when it's going to be open. I will explain all this in the video, so I'll tell you when your exam will be open for you, when it will close, and then of course your Unit 3 capstone I'll go over with you. So if you want to look ahead and look at the exam 3 materials for reviewing for your last unit exam, I want you to do that, right? So be thinking about that, thinking ahead, and then I will also talk about how you do your post-test, and then you have to give me your course feedback as well, okay? So there's a lot going on next week, so it would be nice of you if you were to go ahead and look ahead at the capstone, maybe start working on that, okay? And then we'll talk about the post-test and the course feedback. So this will be a separate video that I'm going to send, so be looking at it. You'll get it sometime this week, and I will put it on the course homepage as well as emailing it to you, so you'll have it, so make sure you'll have the video. Alright guys, that's it. I can't believe this is the last week of your assignments. I hope you guys have had a great semester, but this won't be the last video because we're going to have one more video talking about the exam, the capstone, and then your course feedback and post-test. Alright guys, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to help. Until the next video guys, take care.